Hi there, I'm classical naturopath Dr. Chris Knutson. I'd like to tell you a little bit about HTE products, the SOQI Bed, and the CHI machine. These products were developed over a 40-year period by a Japanese physician who was trying to better help his patients to heal. He was trying to figure out what are the common factors in health and disease. He started looking across his patients: cancer, diabetes, diverticulitis, ulcerative colitis, you name it, whatever disease you can come up with. And he started noticing a pattern. Many of these diseases, he noticed that there was cold extremities, poor blood circulation, low oxygen in the blood. And he started trying to figure out, how can we remedy this to better help these people to heal? If these are all common factors, there must be something underlying this. He studied for many years trying to figure out how to put these things together in order to help his patients. Problem was, he couldn't find the common factor. It's a bit of an issue. One day he was out on a fishing trip, and as most fishermen do, you catch a fish, decide not to keep it, take it off the hook, throw it back. Well, as most fishermen know, when you put a fish in water, sometimes it's been out in the air just a little too long, doesn't go away right away. So you kind of shake it back and forth, pretty soon, whoop, off goes the fish. And then it hit him. The oscillating motion of the fish's body stimulated water to move through its gills, blood and lymph to circulate through its body, and it revived the fish. He decided to try this with his patients. A little unorthodox, but it was worth a shot. So he went back to his hospital, had his patients lay on a bed, took them by the ankles, and started shaking them back and forth. Most of the other doctors thought he was insane. I would think that would be a little odd too. But he gave it a go. He started noticing improvements. Within a short period, he started noticing that his patients were having better recovery periods than those of the other physicians. So he started developing a way, how can we do this without actually manually having to move the patient? Many years of study, research, and development produced the CHI machine. What this is it's a small mechanized compartment with two yokes sitting on top. You lay on the bed and put your ankles in those yokes. When you turn it on, it moves in a slight figure-8 motion that oscillates your body, very much the same way that you move a fish in the water. Sounds a little strange, feels a little funny when you first do it, but here's the thing. What that does is it opens up your spinal column, stimulates the movement of blood and lymph through your body, and detoxifies, oxygenates, and warms your entire system. Here's how it works. When the body is oscillating, the spinal column is being gently rotated, gently oscillated side to side. Most people have low back problems these days. Well, if you're moving at all, because we have a lot of sedentary people in this country, you have to admit, if you're moving at all, most people are bending forward and backward. They don't do much side-to-side motion. The nerves that come out of your spinal column come out the sides of the spinal column, not the front and back. So even if you have forward-backward motion, the lack of movement side to side can cause the cartilage between the vertebrae to start hardening, start stiffening, and start pinching those nerves, causing low back pain and malfunction in the organs that those nerves connect to due to lack of signal getting through because of the pinch. So by opening up the spinal column, you can actually start relieving that back pain. So that's one little thing that the CHI machine does. Granted, you have to take it slow, and I'll explain that in a minute, but we're just starting. Next, as it's oscillating your body, it's stimulating, by moving your muscles, stimulating the production of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide dilates your vessels, allowing more blood to move through. The more blood moves through your body, the more oxygen, the more nutrients, and the more warmth comes from your core to your extremities. Now we'll get to warmth in a minute, but we're going to start with blood and oxygen. If your body is low in oxygen, your cells are low in oxygen, they're not going to function properly. Every cell needs oxygen in order to function correctly. If it doesn't have enough, things are going to malfunction. There are many diseases, especially metabolic diseases, that generally exist in an environment that's lacking oxygen. One example of that is cancers. Most people know tumors do not live in an oxygen-rich environment. They don't tend to like oxygen. So you just get a little more carbon dioxide in the body. What we're doing here is we're stimulating circulation of the blood, get it moving through. Other organs of your body, like the liver, relies purely on the circulation of the blood. It's how it breaks down your food, produces bile, filters your blood, many functions of the liver. If there's poor circulation, there's not as much blood flowing through there, and it's not doing its jobs as effectively. So you can start seeing here, good circulation is pretty imperative. Many people with various diseases suffer, again, I'm going to go back to warmth here for a second, Cold hands and feet. Raynaud's disease is a very extreme case of this. By improving the circulation, you start getting more blood to the periphery. This not only warms the body, but it gives more nutrients to the muscles, providing more energy, more endurance, and generally less pain. Oxygen is also a pain reliever. It is also a tranquilizer, as well as being energizing. A bit of a catch-22, but it works. So by increasing the oxygen content in your body, you can have quite a number of pretty amazing effects, like I say. Less stress, boosted energy, and general overall better function in the body. Another thing that it does, through that same oscillating motion, is moves the lymph. Lymph is like the lymphatic system is kind of like your second circulatory system. But unlike the circulatory system, which has the heart as a pump, the lymphatic system has no pump. It has small nodes throughout your body that are pumped by muscle motion. If the muscles aren't moving, the lymph isn't getting moved. The lymph is like, you can kind of think of it as the sewer system of the body. Most of the toxins that are produced by the cells in your body get dumped into the lymph system, which then pumps it through to be eliminated out of the various systems of the body, whether it's the bowels, the kidneys, etc., or the sweat. It gets eliminated out of the body clean. If you're not moving, it's not moving. Thereby, the body is getting more and more toxic. The oscillating motion that the body goes through while you're using the CHI machine pumps that lymph, moves it through the body, and gently detoxifies the system by relieving that congested, toxic lymph, getting it out. Better out than in? They're generally a good way to go about things. Better out than in. So, with the CHI machine, you can see just this little brief little thing I've given you, many, many benefits that a person can get by extrapolating on those. So, again, improved back pain, improved circulation, improved digestion even. By increasing the blood flow through the body, you can get better digestion. Not only improving the circulation, but the oscillating motion of the body rocks the diaphragm, which massages the internal organs. Now, most people get massages for their muscles. Massaging the internal organs is also very effective for relieving pain, congestion, and inflammation in the gastrointestinal tract. Not only that, but that rocking of the diaphragm pumps the lower lobes of the lungs, bringing oxygen down into parts of the lungs that don't normally get any because of sitting in slumped positions at computers. If you're active, it's not much of a problem, but let's face it, we're pretty inactive people as a whole. So sometimes getting a little bit of help is nice. By using the CHI machine, you can get that oxygen into the lungs. So not only have you improved your circulation, which allows oxygen to flow freer through the body, but now you're bringing more oxygen into the lungs as well, so that there's oxygen to even use. So that's just a brief intro on the CHI machine. From there, we're going to talk a little bit about the hothouse. So these domes right here, these are ceramic heaters. Now, the SOQI Bed as a whole is the heaters and the CHI machine on the massage table. Now, I'm going to talk about them individually because it will make it a little easier. The ceramic heaters right here are individual hemispherical diodes. What a diode is you can think of it almost like a light bulb. It emits energy. In here, we have a silicate diode that releases far infrared light. So instead of visible light, it's putting out far infrared. Far infrared light is heat in essence. A very simplified way of putting it, but it's basically heat. What this puts out, though, is different from what you might find in infrared saunas or other machines of those types. Most infrared saunas put out a basic wavelength that'll just give you warmth, make you feel good, make you sweat, a little detoxing maybe, but not huge effects. The ceramic heaters put out a wavelength of far infrared light that's almost identical to the wavelengths put out by the sun. You know when you go out on a really sunny day and you lay out in the warmth, and you would stay there forever if you weren't afraid of burning to a crisp, it's that kind of warmth. Or sitting next to a fire on a cold winter day, that same warmth that you're getting from the sun, from the fire, etc., that's what you feel when you lay under the, in the SOQI Bed, under the domes. That heat may just feel warm and snuggly, but there's actually quite a few things that it does for the body. Again, going back to warmth, the body needs to be warm. Here's why, especially the periphery. Poor circulation, again, generally doesn't bring much heat to the body. If the body is cold, those cells aren't going to function properly. Many aches and pains in elderly folk are because their body is running too cold. There's not enough oxygen, not enough nutrition, and not enough fluid coming to their muscles and joints for them to function properly and effectively. Thereby they get stiff and shrunken and atrophied. Not a pleasant place to be. By improving the circulation, you can start rehydrating that tissue. You can start bringing more oxygen, more nutrients, etc. The SOQI bed delivers that warmth directly, whereas the CHI machine opens the body so that the blood can flow, bringing warmth from the core. The hothouse, the ceramic heater, gives it to you externally, putting that heat into the body. Now, it may just sound like a comfy place to lay, but there's a couple amazing things that it does. So, not only does it warm the body, what does that warmth do? Most infrared saunas you're going to find, maybe the light penetrates about ½ an inch into the body. Doesn't really do much besides make you feel hot. The wavelengths that they use in the ceramic heater can penetrate many inches, 3 to 4 inches sometimes, into the body, which means you're bringing that heat deep. And it creates what you might call an artificial fever. Now, don't take that the wrong way. I'll explain this in a second. Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, said, "Give me a fever and I can cure any disease." Maybe a little bit of an overstatement, but it gets the idea across. The fever, unlike most modern thinking where they say that fever is the enemy, take Tylenol, get rid of the fever as fast as possible, the fever is actually the body's natural response to pathogens, to injury, or other extraneous circumstances. The body is actually responding in a beneficial way that's simply highly uncomfortable. So when you get a fever, imagine a person with the flu. The virus has gotten into the body and the temperature starts going up. It's not the virus that's causing the fever. It's the body responding to the virus. There are very few pathogens that can exist and survive in elevated temperatures for an extended period of time. The human body is innately built to create those high temperatures for extended periods. However, it can get dangerous. And here's why fevers are dangerous. If the person's head gets too hot, it can injure the brain. If you get fevers above 104 degrees, it can actually be, in some cases, fatal. So, generally speaking, that's why they want to keep your temperature down below 101, 102. That's usually why. Here's the difference between a natural fever and the SOQI bed. A natural fever, it's all over the body. The SOQI bed, it's localized. You're putting that heat in a local area, no negative side effects. Here's what happens. Person with a pathogen in their body. Put the domes on, lay in there for several hours. Some of those pathogens are going to get killed off by that extended period of elevated heat. Not only that, but the body's immune system is going to be stimulated by that same artificial fever into thinking that they're more of an attacker than there may actually be. By jump-starting the immune system, you just set your body at war with whatever pathogen might be there, and the recovery is going to be much, much quicker, generally speaking. Not only that, but you're heating the internal organs. The internal organs actually need to be kept warmer than any other part of the body. That's why, generally, if you feel your belly, it's warmer than your foot. Seems a little bit of a strange analogy, but here's why. Organs in your the organs in your gastrointestinal tract produce lots of enzymes for their functions. Now, every cell functions with enzymes. We're going to focus on the GI tract. The enzymes used for breaking down your food actually have a temperature threshold. If you're under or over that temperature, they don't work right, and your food doesn't get broken down properly. Now, generally speaking, most people run too cold. Whether it's age, whether it's poor nutrition, a sedentary lifestyle, or simply you've had your AC on for too long, if the body stays too cold for too long and the temperature starts to drop internally for whatever reason, whether it's extraneous or caused by a disease, especially metabolic diseases, your digestion gets impaired because those enzymes are not able to activate and break down your food. If your food isn't broken down, it's not able to absorb. Hence, you actually get a form of what you may call minor malnutrition because your body is not breaking down the food properly. Many people with irritable bowel diseases, colitis, Crohn's, diverticulitis, any of those things and beyond, generally speaking, they can't digest well. And so they end up, to a certain degree, malnourished. By warming the gastrointestinal organs, you can actually boost the temperature, thereby activating those enzymes, and to some degree, jump-starting the digestion. There's many cases where impaired digestion, going along with this or that ailment, can actually be improved simply by warming the body. Many people who are sick notice that after taking a warm bath, if they have their meal afterwards, they usually feel a little bit better. I've seen this many times. A lot of people never connect it, but there's actually a thing there. By warming the body with something like the ceramic heater, you keep the body warmer, it penetrates deeper than just the warmth of water, and you can jumpstart your digestive system to the point where things may actually start improving. You might start noticing differences. I've seen many cases similar to this. Now, along with that, they also boost your oxygen. Again, we're going back to oxygen. By heating the body in this way, again, you're dilating the vessels. You're warming the body, which opens those blood vessels, relaxes the muscles around them, allows more blood to flow. Again, the more blood flows, the more oxygen, nutrients, everything works better. So, very simplified explanation. One last little thing I'm going to tell you about the hot houses is a little bit on what you might call pain relief. If you have, say, an injury, sprained ankle is a good example, most people rush for the ice. Now, while ice can be good in the immediacy to prevent swelling, actually, in many cases, you want warmth on that injury, especially minor injuries. If you put ice on it, yes, it'll keep down the swelling, but it'll also keep the blood away. If the blood is kept away by constricting those vessels due to cold, you're not going to get much oxygen or nutrients there to repair the damage that was done, and it's going to take longer to heal. If, after the initial injury, the initial icing to prevent swelling, a person uses heat rather than cold, you can actually speed the healing by bringing more blood, more nutrients, and more materials to rebuild that damage. By bringing this extra blood and nutrients, you can also reduce pain by creating a localized fever in that injury. So most people think of inflammation as a bad thing. I've heard many people say inflammation, they call it the silent killer. I disagree. Inflammation is the body's response to a circumstance. Generally speaking, inflammation doesn't come on its own. There's always something that causes it. If you find the cause, you can get rid of the inflammation. Sometimes, like in the case of an injury, the inflammation is actually a good thing. It's heating up that area to bring more blood, more nutrients, and enhance repair of the damage. If you drive that all the way with cold, you're actually undoing the body's natural response to healing the injury. So rather than working against the body, work with the body. Give it some warmth there. Once the swelling is down, you've actually taken care of it. First few minutes with cold, whatnot, start using heat. The best I've ever found is the ceramic heater. The reason being, again, it penetrates deeply. It's not just a warm, damp cloth on the surface which heats the skin. The heat from the far infrared will actually penetrate, in many cases, all the way down to the bones, especially on a thin-tissued area like the ankle. By doing this, it can provide heat and nutrients directly to the deep tissue areas, helping it to heal. So, many cases, injuries, digestion, back pain. We've talked about so many things, and that's just this simple machine right here. The nice thing about this is it is medical grade equipment, and anyone can have it in their home. So it's much more affordable in the long run. I know many people who use these machines daily and get incredible benefits. They feel amazing. I know many elderly folk who use these on a regular basis, including a woman of 101 years old who uses these a couple times a week and is more vibrant than just about anyone I've ever heard of, at her age especially. So, as you can tell, pretty incredible stuff. We'll be telling you more in the future. Look forward to that. For now, thanks.